Let my two hands be left exposed outside the coffin. I want everyone to understand that we come into this world with empty hands, and when we leave with only empty hands." These were the last words spoken by Alexander the Great before departing from this world. A king who had conquered almost the entire world of his time, who had made nations tremble under the hooves of his mighty army, ended his life's journey with a simple yet profound realization: all that a person accumulates and holds on to ultimately fades into nothingness before death. The life of each individual is like the flow of a river. Money cannot buy back time, power cannot stop death, and fame cannot fill the emptiness of a lonely soul. We try to hold on to what we consider important, but in the end, everything passes like dust. It is greed and attachment to these things that make us lose our inner freedom, and when everything disappears, we become empty and powerless in the face of the harsh truth of impermanence. Life, whether that of a king or a commoner, shares one common destination: departure. The only thing that remains in the end is how we face impermanence, whether with gentle release or with unrelenting regret. Let us listen carefully to the story of the great king's final wishes to gain a deeper insight. Lying on his sickbed in the palace of Babylon, Alexander the Great, who had once made the entire world bow, was now a mere shadow of his former self. The night fell outside the window, and the flickering flames from the torches in the room cast shadows on the king's weary face. His close generals, who had fought alongside him through hundreds of battles, now stood silently. They knew not what to do but wait in the painful realization that the one they revered was being slowly taken by death. Alexander coughed violently. When the fit subsided, he gestured for the generals to come closer. Though his breath had become weak, his eyes still gleamed with a sharp light, reminiscent of the days when he led his army to countless victories. "Listen to me, my lords," he spoke weakly but clearly. "I sense that death is near. Before I depart, I have 3 final wishes that you must fulfill at all costs. Do not let anyone break these vows." The generals stood stunned. One of the bolder ones spoke: "Your Majesty, please allow us to find the best doctors. We will spare no expense to save you." Alexander gently shook his head. "No one can defeat death, not even me. Hear me well. Let the best doctors carry my coffin. I want everyone to understand that, no matter their power, no one can save the one already under the claws of death. Their impotence is the clearest reminder that life and death are beyond human control." A cold breeze swept in through the window. Alexander's words caused those around him to shudder. The oldest general, who had fought in hundreds of life and death battles, instinctively gripped his sword, feeling, for the first time in his life, helpless in the face of a battle no one could win. Alexander continued, his voice trembling. "My second wish is to scatter gold, silver, and jewels along the road from the palace to the graveyard. I want everyone to understand that although I have spent my life conquering and accumulating wealth, all of it becomes meaningless before death. Not a single piece of gold can I carry with me. These things are fleeting, leading people to waste time and forget the true value of life." He paused for a moment, his eyes distant as if reminiscing. "Do you know, when I conquered the lands of the East, I once thought that if I could possess all the wealth in the world, I would achieve complete happiness. But now I understand that wealth cannot bring peace to the soul. It is just a burden once it takes root in the greed of mankind." The generals remained silent. They understood that Alexander's words were not only for the people, but also a message for them, those who had fought for him but also, at times, struggled for their own interests. Alexander sighed, his voice growing weaker. "My final wish is that my 2 hands be left exposed outside the coffin. I want everyone to understand that we come into this world with empty hands, and when we leave with only empty hands. My entire life has been spent in war, gathering, and conquering, but in the end, I cannot take anything with me." He looked at the generals with a stern gaze. "Remember, this vow is not for me, but for the whole world. Fulfill it, so I may depart in peace. As the first light of dawn appeared, Alexander the Great breathed his last. His funeral was carried out by the doctors, their heavy steps marking the way amidst the cries of the people. Along the long road to his burial place, gold, silver, and jewels were scattered. The jewels sparkled in the sunlight, yet no one dared to stoop and pick them up. They knew these were not only Alexander's possessions but also a reminder that material wealth is fleeting. The two hands of the king, who once held power and wealth, now lay exposed, outside the coffin, symbolizing impermanence. Thousands followed behind, tears rolling down their faces, deeply feeling the meaning of his three final wishes. The story of Alexander the Great's three wishes is a profound reminder of the nature of life. Greed only leads one to chase after fleeting things, accumulating wealth while forgetting that, in the end, all is left behind. Attachment to power, fame, or material wealth causes us to live in anxiety and fear, but in reality, nothing belongs to us forever. Impermanence is an undeniable truth. Everything in life changes, and no one escapes the cycle of life and death. What is truly valuable is not what we accumulate, but how we live, let go, and cherish each moment. Human life is like a river that never stops flowing, where greed and attachment are the large rocks that block the current. Greed makes us chase after money and wealth, only to realize, when we look back, that all of it is fleeting. As Alexander came to understand, he had the doctors carry his coffin to remind us that even the most skilled cannot defeat death. Let us not allow greed to make us waste our lives only to realize that nothing lasts forever. Attachment to fame, power, or possessions only makes life heavier. What we stubbornly hold onto will eventually slip away because this world is always changing, and nothing is permanent. Alexander had his hands exposed outside the coffin to teach us that we come into this life with empty hands and leave with empty hands. Attachment only tires the heart and cannot hold on to anything. Impermanence is the essence of life. Nothing lasts forever, and no one escapes the cycle of birth, aging, illness, and death. Even after gathering all his wealth, Alexander allowed it to be scattered along the road to his resting place, as a reminder that wealth cannot be taken with us. Only by confronting impermanence do we truly understand the value of letting go and appreciating the present moment. Alexander lived as a conqueror, but he departed as one who understood the way of life. And his three wishes, though simple, became a great lesson for those still living, a lesson for all of us. To let go of greed, cease attachment, and face impermanence with a gentle heart. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to give me more motivation and to not miss out on great content.